to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. This is Mahoning County. This is our public hearing on the sales tax. And today is the 22nd of July, 2021 at approximately 11 o'clock a.m. And we are in the Commissioner's hearing room, Mahoning County Courthouse, 120 Market Street, Youngstown, Ohio. As customary, I have to read the legal notice on the sales tax town hall form. So bear with me. Notice is hereby given to the Board of Commissioners of Mahoning County will conduct 2 public hearings at the following locations on the following dates. We already had a public hearing Monday, July 19th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. at McMahon Hall, Canfield, Ohio. And today we're holding a public hearing, which is the last hearing that we're holding, in the Commissioner's hearing room, Mahoning County Courthouse, 120 Market Street, Youngstown, Ohio. At the hearings, the Board of Mahoning County Commissioners will discuss the proposed resolution levying a sales tax pursuant to section 5739.021 of the revised code and a use tax or taxes pursuant to section 5741.023 of the revised code, in each case at a rate to be determined for a limited number of years or a continued period of time for the purpose of providing additional general revenues for the county for the repair and maintenance of roads and other infrastructures in Mahoning County and paying the expenses of administering such taxes. Copies of the proposed resolution to levy such taxes will be on file in the clerk of office of Mahoning County Commissioners. That's Nancy, 21 West Boardman Street, Suite 200, Youngstown, Ohio, 44503, for inspection by all parties. And for the public to know that this was published in the Vindicator on Tuesday, June 29th, 2021, and on Tuesday, July 6th, 2021. Proof copies were mailed to Jim Fortunato, Director of Purchasing, Mahoning County, Ohio Commissioner's Office. Purchase order number 100-19923, count number L14210. That being said, I will now turn the presentation over to Pat Giannetti, our county road engineer. Pat.
Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, everybody, for taking some time out of your busy day to come and hear our presentation. I'm going to go through a brief history of how the county engineer's offices are funded before I get into the specifics of the proposed sales tax. And at the end of the presentation, any questions you might have, I'll do the best I can to answer your questions as detailed as possible. Okay, so those of you that have heard me talk in the past have heard me talk about stagnant revenues. Where do we go from here? So the county engineer's office in Mahoning County, our budget has been relatively flat for a little over 2 decades. In 1999, our budget was $10.6 million. In 2019, our budget was $10.8 million. So our budget did not change. It did not increase hardly at all in 20 years. Every county engineer in the state of Ohio is funded the same way: gas tax and license plate fees. We receive no sales tax, no property tax, no income tax, with the exception of 2 counties, and I'll expand on that in a few slides. Federal gas tax has not been increased since 1993. The state gas tax was increased in 2019 by 10 cents. However, COVID-19 hit, so we were not able to see a true projection of what the 10-cent increase would generate. One thing to mention too is the state gas tax, 11% of the total collections is what the county engineers get. 11% is divided 88 ways. So all 88 counties get the same amount of money from state gas tax. So a county like ours, we have just under 500 miles. We have 483 miles of county roads. We're the 5th largest county in the state of Ohio with road miles. We get the same amount of money as Franklin County. Columbus, they have 254 county miles. We have double the miles of Franklin County. Our budget is right around $11 million. Franklin County has a $54 million budget. Columbiana County, has 169 county miles. 2/3 of their roads, about 100 miles, are tar and chip. 100% of our roads are asphalt. We get the same amount of gas tax. We are 3 times larger than our sister county to the south. So that just shows you kind of the disparity on how gas taxes are distributed throughout the state of Ohio. There are 4 other counties, obviously, that are larger than us, Muskingum County being the #1 with the most miles. They get the same amount of gas tax as we do. The county permissive fees, the license plate tax. The permissive fees have been the same since 1991. In 1988, they enacted the first, and in 91, they enacted the other 2 $5 plate fees. They have not increased since 1991. On the screen right now, you can see an overall map of the United States showing the combined state federal gas tax. Ohio, we're about in the middle. Directly to our east, Pennsylvania has the highest gas tax in the nation at 77 cents per gallon. We are, like I said, right in the middle. We have a few states around us that are a little lower, a little higher, but on the average, we're about right in the middle. This slide here shows how the registration fees in Ohio are distributed, depending on if you're plated in a city or if you live in a township. So depending on how or where you live and how your license plate is plated dictates how that money is distributed. But this gives you a breakdown of the standard $20 fee, then the additional $5 increments that were put in place again in 88, 91 are added on top of that come to the engineer's office. So I always talk about the significance of the gas tax and license plate fees. There's really no one size fits all solution. We've heard it oftentimes where, it's not fair that the gas tax is divided evenly. A big county like us gets the same amount as a small county like Gallia County down in the southern part of the state. Whereas the license plate fees, Franklin County generates $50 million from their license plates. We generate 8. So there's no one size fits all. The 3 largest counties, 8% of their budget is made up of the gas tax. The 3 smallest counties, 72% of their budget is made up from the gas tax. If you think about it, the smaller counties have less population, fewer people plated in their county, generates less money. Bigger counties, that's where they make the bulk of their money. So raising the gas tax helps some more than others. Raising the plate fees helps some more than others. There's no real silver bullet solution to raise one and it's going to help everybody. This diagram here is a projection. It's actually actual cost, construction costs that's generated by the National Highway Construction Cost Index that shows in 16 years, construction materials have increased 96%. Essentially, they've doubled in less than 2 decades. So back to my first slide where our budget's been stagnant. We're using the same amount of money we did 20 years ago, but the construction materials have doubled. So as the construction costs continue to rise and our budget stays flat, that gap gets bigger and bigger. It's harder for us to do as much as we need to do. And being, again, the 5th largest county with road miles makes it more and more challenging for us to get as many roads paved as we would like. So asphalt concrete resurfacing has to occur to maintain the pavements to a usable condition. The average useful life of an asphalt road is 7 to 10 years. With 483 miles in our county, that would mean we would have to pave 69 miles per year in order to hit that every 7th year paving a road. It's an average cost of just under $110,000 per mile to do a 2-inch overlay on a traditional 2-lane county highway. So 69 miles times that 110,000 equates to about $7.6 million per year we would have to spend in order for us to pave our roads within their useful life period. If we were to stretch that resurfacing to every 15 years, we would be looking at 32 miles per year. And it's hard to see on that computer, but you can see the cost here to do 32 miles a year at the average 110,000 a mile. You're looking at $3.5 million per year just in paving alone. Next slide, please. Our bridges brand new bridge has an assumed lifespan of 70 years. We have 288 bridges in the county. Divided by that 70-year lifespan, we would have to replace 4.1 bridges per year. A typical bridge replacement is $136,000 and some change. That doesn't count the Market Street Bridge, which is the 9th largest bridge in the state of Ohio, which is a county bridge. Doesn't count the Mahoning Avenue Bridge. You know, the larger bridges obviously have a bigger cost. South Avenue Bridge, those are multi-million-dollar bridges, but our typical, 20-foot wide, 25-foot wide, 20 to 30-foot span bridge, you're looking at around 140,000 to replace it. To do 4 bridges per year, you're looking at an additional $560,000 to keep up with the lifespan of our bridges. So total cost, if we get a 15-year cycle on our roads and did the 4.1 bridges per year, that's a designated $4 million, 4.1 million just in paving and bridges to keep up with the useful life of the infrastructure that we inherited. Now, this cost doesn't include any of the items listed below: matching monies for grants, contract fees for engineers to design some of these projects, salaries, pothole repair, fuel, utilities, tree clearing, traffic signals. One of our biggest expenses in the county engineer's office, and probably our #1 function, is snow and ice. We are a safety department. We're operations and maintenance. But snow and ice is probably our #1 function. That is our biggest unknown too. The price of salt fluctuates year to year. The amount of salt needed fluctuates year to year, depending on the weather. We're at the mercy of the weather and mercy of the industry based on supply and demand. So that's a big number every year that we have to account for. And we've done the best we can to try to develop historical trends on how much salt to buy. But again, you never know from year to year what the price is going to be. I think everybody in this room remembers the bad winters we had in 13 and 14. Price of salt went from $27 a ton to $152 a ton. Almost bankrupted our department because of that major 310% increase. It's since come down into the 70s, 60s, and $50 per ton, depending on location, but it's not down to that $27 a ton any longer. So to deal with the stagnant declining revenues and rising costs, 2 counties, Delaware County and Holmes County, have a dedicated sales tax to help fund county roads and bridges. Currently, Mahoning County has no road levy, no dedicated sales tax, nor the House Bill 26, which was the additional $5 license plate fee. So we're continuing to operate like the other 86 counties, simply on gas tax and license plate fees. So a 0.25% sales tax for a period of 5 years is being proposed to be placed on the November ballot. If this is approved by the voters, funding would generate somewhere between $8 and $9 million, and 100% of that money is going to be dedicated to roadway safety and infrastructure. Some of the allowable uses, myself and the Mahoning County Township Trustees Association had met quite a bit. We started talking about this several years ago. One of the things that I've always said since I got here in 13 was we have to start thinking outside of the box. We can't continue to use the "this is how we've always done it" phrase. We have to do things differently because the money just doesn't go as far as it needs to. It doesn't spend the same way. So we wanted to be sure that we hit on every necessary important area of both the county and the township and the cities, the major parts of our department. So we took a safety component, a roadway component, bridges, grants, and loans, and tried to identify every possible expenditure that we would need to dedicate these funds to. The one thing we came up with 100% agreement was absolutely no money generated from this sales tax, if passed, can go towards salaries, equipment, or buildings. 100% has to go into the infrastructure, has to go into the safety of the traveling public, has to go into our roads. The next couple slides, I'm going to give you a snapshot of what we're currently doing. You'll see acronyms and abbreviations. OPWC, that stands for Ohio Public Works Commission. That is a grant, a statewide grant that not only myself, but the townships all compete for. Mahoning County and Trumbull County are grouped into a district. There's 19 districts in the state of Ohio under OPWC. We have approximately $10 million between the two counties, all the townships in both counties, all the cities and villages in both counties that we all compete for. If we don't get funded through OPWC, we may not have a paving program. So we have to be sure that we always come up with a very aggressive yet very practical program that scores well enough that we're going to ensure that we have paving. But also we have to be cognizant of the other communities. We have to be able to play nice in the sandbox and make sure there's enough money for everyone. So this is what our current paving program looks like this year. As you can see, there's a lot of white space on this map. We go after these grants every year, and it seems like every year we're doing less and less because the cost continues to go up. With these grants, there's a local match component, meaning a portion is covered by the grant, the other portion comes out of our budget directly. This grant is a 54% grant, 46% local match. So essentially, it's a 50-50 split. So on a $2 million project, we have to come up with $1 million from our own budget, which is 10% of our budget, if you think about it, that we have to dedicate directly to paving. This is what next year's program looks like. As you can see, again, there's a lot of white space on there. It's really sparse. Every year, it's getting more and more difficult to get as many roads done as we need to. The CSTP paving program, this is a federal grant that we received. It's administered through the County Engineers Association, but it enables us to pave federal aid routes in the more rural parts of the county. All of the trustees, all of the commissioners have heard me explain over the years some of my frustrations with the grant funding. Grant funding seems to always be geared towards urban. This is one of those programs that's available for the rural parts of the county. Our county is primarily rural, although we have several large urban townships in the city of Youngstown. The vast majority of our county is urban. All 5 townships to the south and the 4 townships to the west of Austintown and Canfield are all rural. We struggle every year to get roads in those townships done because there's just not enough traffic. And unfortunately, traffic count is one of the scoring criteria on our state and federal grants. So it's a challenge. This program is enabling us, again, to do some county roads that are on the federal aid route in the rural parts of the county. That program as well is a 80-20 match. So it's an 80% grant, 20% comes out of our local budget. So in essence, we're going to do approximately 25 miles for about $500,000, which is a tremendous program. We're paying 20 cents on the dollar for asphalt. What's on the screen here, these are 3 federal projects. Mahoning Avenue, which is underway currently. The mainline paving is complete. There's still manhole rehabilitation needs to be done and some intersection and permanent striping. But that is a federally funded project. And you see South Avenue in Boardman, that's actually broken up into 2 phases, both federally funded. One is going from Western Reserve Road to Presidential. The second phase goes from Presidential to Matthews Road. And if you recall, in 2 slides prior, we also have Lake Park and the other part of South Avenue going to be paved next year. Currently, we have South Avenue from Matthews Road to Lake Park being reconstructed and widened to enable traffic to flow through that area a little more efficiently and more safely. Once that project's done, we're going to go into the paving. We try to strategically place our paving around the construction so we're not driving heavy construction vehicles on newly paved roads. So those are in sequence to be done in the next 2 years. So all of South Avenue from Western Reserve Road to the Youngstown city limits will be complete by the end of 2023. So moving into proposed sales tax, bless you. One of our goals in meeting with the Township Association was ensuring that every year, at least one road in every township would get done until we completed every county road in those townships. So in year 1, this is what we came up with as far as paving alone. Now, this doesn't take into consideration any grants. This is strictly looking at if this proposed sales tax were to pass, we dedicated half of the money to paving county roads. The other half, we're gonna work with the townships at developing a master plan and paving their roads as well, and then taking additional monies from this and working on the infrastructure within the cities. This is year one, utilizing $4 million of paving. Here's year two. Now, again, we have at least one road in every township being done. Let's go to year three, Bob. Year three, I like to mention, see Green Township's completely white. There's no roads in Green Township. That's a good thing. That means by the third year of this sales tax, every road in Green Township that's a county road would have been paved. Berlin Township, you're only seeing one road. Milton, you're only seeing one. Here's year four. Again, you're starting to see more white, which is a good thing. That means we're catching up. We're getting all the roads done in these townships that need to be done, especially in the rural parts that we struggle, where we don't have the ability to obtain as much grant funding as we would like. To move on to year five. Here's what year five would look like. And again, you see us, we're back in Green Township again. We're back in Milton, nothing in Berlin. We're starting to redo roads that we did in my first 2 years, 13 and 14, by the third, fourth, and fifth year of this proposed sales tax, if it were to pass. So it enables us to get roads done and try to get closer to that 7 to 10 year cycle that we need to get to in order to keep our roads in top shape. When I took office, we did what's known as a pavement condition rating study, PCR is the abbreviation. It's a study that ODOT developed to grade their roads, simply like a high school report card. What I walked into was 2/3 of our roads were Ds or Fs on the scorecard. So in talking with a lot of the townships, especially the rural townships, coming into office, my thoughts were, if your road's bad, we need to get it paved, regardless of what it's going to take. So I've been fighting tooth and nail to try to get every dollar we can. Anytime we have a surplus, we put it into roads. County commissioners 3 times now have given my department money to help us with paving and equipment because of the stagnancy of our budget. No county commissioners in the history of this county gave as much support and funding to this office as these 3. They really care. They do everything they can. They have surplus of money. They're calling me saying, what can you do with it? Making sure that we put it back into our infrastructure. And had it not been for these 3, last year, we would have had no paving program because the capital bill delayed our state funding so late in the year, we couldn't bid the project even if we wanted to. The bids wouldn't have been done until January. So that wouldn't have helped us at all. So had it not been for the commissioners stepping up and caring about this county and all the offices, we would have had no paving last year. We also would have had no equipment of the equipment that had broken down. Normal wear and tear on our plow trucks is very rugged. Normal wear and tear on our mowers is rugged. We've also had 2 mower operators struck by cars, one a few months ago, one a few years ago, from a distracted driver. Thankfully, neither one of them were seriously or fatally injured, but they were injured and shook up. So had it not been for the support of these 3, it would have made my job even harder to do. All right, Bob, let's go to the next slide. So here is what 5 years this proposed sales tax would do simply in paving. Now, again, this is a conservative map, not taking into account state and federal grants. We add in state and federal grants into this map, we're going to be doing more and more and more, because that's going to enable us to stretch the dollar. Even if it's a 50-50, 50% grant, 50% local, we're doubling the money. If it's an 80-20, that's even better. So we will continue, regardless of if this passes or not, to do our job and to be aggressive going after every single grant. A lot of questions have come up. The White House is talking about increasing the infrastructure bill. Well, with all federal dollars, there's going to be a local match. So the more they increase that, we still have to come up with the local match. That's the challenge we have. Our budget is flat, it's stagnant. So the more grants they put out there, how do we come up with the local share? That's always been the challenge. We're still going to go after them, but it becomes increasingly more difficult to cover our cost on that. Let's move forward. Okay. One of the things we talked about, this sales tax, if passed, could generate $9 million. $4 million would be dedicated to county roads, $4 million dedicated to township roads, the other $1 million dedicated to the infrastructure we maintain within the cities and villages. We're going to get to 5-year plans in all 14 townships now. So this is what Austintown would look like. Again, Austintown is a very large urban township, a very big roadway network. They put all 5 years into one. We're going to sit and work with each township as we are the statutory engineer for the townships and work to develop a more comprehensive plan if this passes, because we'll have time to put together each individual year. Go ahead, Bob. Beaver Township, here's year 1. Let's go ahead and keep clicking. 2, 3, 4, and 5. We color coded each year. Beaver Township was able to, again, being a smaller township, develop a 5-year plan. Again, these are all projections. These maps can change if something were to occur where one of the roads may fall apart after a bad winter worse than one of the others that was planned. We may switch it, but keeping in mind, this is the goal each year. Berlin Township. Let's go ahead and rattle first. 5 on them. You can see again, we have them color coded for each year. Moving to the next township, Boardman. Again, Boardman being a very large urban township, they gave us the list based on the dollar amount, what they could do in a 5-year period. Canfield Township has theirs broken up into 5 different regions as well. And again, all these roads you're seeing here are township roads. The county roads we showed you on the first couple slides. Coatesville, they have it broken up, doing some paving in the first 2 years, chip and seal in the 3rd and 4th year, and paving again in the 5th year. Again, all township roads. Ellsworth Township, in their 5 years, they haven't fully refined the plan yet, but we're going to work very closely with Ellsworth Township in developing each year what they're going to do as far as infrastructure safety within their township infrastructure. Goshen Township, you're going to see their 5 years. You'll notice they have 5 different areas. Some of the roads you may see an overlap like here. What that means is 1 year they're going to pave it. A couple years later, they're going to chip and seal that. A lot of people ask us, why don't you chip and seal? It's less expensive than paving. Correct, it is. However, chip and seal follows the contour. So if you have a bumpy road and you chip and seal, you still have a bumpy road. It's just sealed. So that's a big misunderstanding, that people think that we're spending more money to pave a road where we can chip and seal for maybe a half or a third of the cost. Chip and seal is a good product and it's a good process. However, you have to have a smooth road. You can't have a road that's bumpy. You can't have a road that has potholes in it. It has to be smooth in order for chip and seal to work. Green Township, same thing. We're going to work very closely with Green Township in developing their plan, but they plan on repaving 2.5 miles of roadway each year. With the passage of this, they have a total of 12.5 miles. That'll enable Green Township to have 100% of the infrastructure in their township done, both county and township roads, in a 5-year period. Jackson Township, I believe they have this broken up into several years. Jackson went one step farther and added some dollar amounts to get some projected costs, which will enable us, I think there's 2 more, Bob, which will enable us to work with them at going after grants as well. And again, looking at these, we're not taking into account any grant applications because it's a bit premature to do that. But every one of these projects, we're going to try to parlay a grant with that to stretch that dollar. Milton Township, back up one. Milton Township, again, they have all 5 years into one. We will work very closely with them, especially the smaller townships that don't have the staff like the Austin and Boardmans. We're going to work really closely with them to help develop a very comprehensive plan to try to get each year buttoned down. Poland Township, they had given us a list. Some people know Poland Township had passed a levy a few years ago to pave their township roads. However, none of the county roads in the township got done. So even the people that paid the levy in Poland to live on county roads saw no benefit. Our goal here is to ensure that everybody in this county benefits from this if it passes, both city people, township people, county as a whole. We want everyone to benefit from this. Smith Township, see, they have their 5-year plan put together. And again, these are all township roads in Smith. Springfield Township has a 5-year plan as well, and you'll see something similar to what Goshen had. Some of the roads in Springfield, they're going to pave 1 year and a few years later come back and chip and seal. Those of you that see potholes on a road, potholes are generated from the surface down. That's water getting into the cracks, freeze thaw, expands, it pops it, starts to develop that hole. That's how potholes are formed. They come from the top down. When you see cracking on the sides of the roads, that's from the bottom up. So here again, this is a complete 5-year plan of county roads only, if this passes. Next slide is going to show a combination of county and township. This is what we could do if this passes. We can carpet almost the entire county in asphalt. We can get every road done in a 5-year period that needs done. If it doesn't pass, we're going to continue to do our job the best we can. I'm going to continue to fight, claw, and battle for every dollar we can get grant money. The more grants we get, the better it is. But again, as our budgets continue to remain flat and cost continues to go up, it becomes harder and harder. With the growth of the electric vehicles, the gas tax is going to eventually diminish. It's going to continue to shrink because these more efficient hybrids and electric vehicles aren't going to be using as much gasoline. And another point to make, in talking with the Township Association, sales tax is generated by 30 to 40% people that do not live in our county, out of county people. So we felt that was of any tax the most fair because 30 to 40% of the money is coming in from other people that are traveling our roads that typically don't contribute. So a person that lives in Pennsylvania coming down I-80, stopping in Austintown or stopping in Boardman to shop, they're driving our roads. They're not plated here. They may not buy gas here. So we're getting virtually nothing from them currently. We have some large commercial companies that have no trucks plated in the state of Ohio. We get next to nothing from them. They're driving our roads every day. So this is an attempt, again, to try to get our infrastructure where it needs to be. Good infrastructure brings business, it keeps business. And, you know, I thank the commissioners for allowing me to do this presentation. I thank the Township Association for approaching me and trying to work together. For the first time, from what I'm hearing in the history of the Township Association, we had all 14 townships come together for multiple meetings where everybody was in support, in agreement, and worked towards putting this master plan together. And if it passes, this is what we're going to do. And we've already spoken to Auditor Ralph Meacham prior to even putting this plan together. If this were to come to fruition and pass, how would we manage this money? The auditor would have to set up a separate fund to ensure that all this money is going into the infrastructure. It cannot be used for those items that I mentioned before, salaries, equipment, and buildings. So we've done our due diligence to make sure there's transparency and honesty. And again, this is our plan. Obviously, I support it because I live this every day. And my goal as an engineer, as a resident of this county, is to get this done. I take a lot of pride in my profession. I take a lot of pride in my family, and I take a lot of pride in my work, and I won't sleep until this is done. So with that, I'll open the floor to questions. Audrey, do we need to, you can hit the last slide, Bob, that's it. Yeah, we need to minimize the screen. Yes.
We'll answer questions after.
Okay.
We're going to go through the agenda.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's fine.
I didn't mean to take control of the meeting.
That's all right. You did such a good job. I wanted you to just keep going. Thank you.
Very informative, very thorough.
Yes, very nice presentation. Okay, we have some speakers here. So what I'd like to do first is ask those who are in favor of the sales tax to speak. And I see we have Robert Orr, who would like to speak, Artie Spellman, Lola Simmons, Carol Geis, and Dave Slagle. And I hope I pronounced your names correctly. If I didn't, you can correct me. Okay, so those folks who are in favor, whose names are read to speak, by all means, yeah, go ahead.
Commissioner Smallmore, okay to speak right here?
No,
Yes.
if you could come up here, that way you're can be on camera.
Well, we have a saying at church, that church is a beautiful thing when it's working right. This to me is an example of local government working right. What a comprehensive plan Pat and the committee from the Township Association have put together. I mean, this really takes care of everything. And you know, we who have great passion and serve with great passion want to be proud of where we're from and where we serve. And we are so proud of this plan because we know it's going to make us so much better. You know, when we have people come from out of town, first thing they complain about is our roads. Well, now we're going to have good roads and it's going to help business. It's going to help bring business and commerce. So we're so Township Association, us trustees that serve there and serve our township, we are tickled to see this plan come to fruition. And we're so very hopeful that it'll pass. So we think it will. We're optimistic and we're very thankful for the work that Pat did with the committee. And what a comprehensive plan. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks for keeping under 3 minutes because I forgot to announce that. 3 minutes, my fault. Art Spellman.
I am standing up, being so short, I always get said stand up here. Thank you, commissioners, department heads, and my constituents over here in the public. Certainly we've heard, and a lot of us have talked to Pat over the years. Pat coming here with a visionary, as an elected official that has worked behind the scenes about this idea, doing more with less. We find out what the commissioner did last year, trying to find emergency money. We know what Pat's been doing, and we can't keep doing more with less. We need more to do a little bit more. We have to keep up. So I think with the plan that Pat had put together with an ad hoc team from the Township Association, that's a tremendous plan. Let's allow the public to raise their hand and say whether they want this or not. And that's, I urge the commissioners to put this on the November election.
Lola Simmons. Did I pronounce that correctly? Lola? Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. I really appreciate the presentation. I have a better understanding of where we are with that. I am from Austintown Township, and I live on Webb Road, and it is notorious on the county side for being one of the roughest roads, and it's an access road for those going to County Line Road. Now that we have the casino there, people are racing up and down. And so we get the patches done on our road. And it would be nice to have us on a list that says we are going to be addressed with this. I know that the township takes care of a portion of that road, but on my end of it, it is the county. So I have a better understanding, and I'm praying that we will be on the list so that I don't have to go out of my driveway and dive into a crater on Webb Road. And Mr. Ditzler, I'm sure you're familiar with Webb Road. They're also on that end. This is the dead end of Webb.
West Webb.
Yes, this is West Webb. So again, I have a better understanding. And I think that the public needs to be aware, more aware, and in attendance to have a better understanding so that when they do go to the polls, they'll know which way to vote and vote in the way that's best for our county and our city and our townships. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I want to expand a little bit and thank you for your comments.
Yes.
I get called a lot from angry citizens saying, we forgot their road or we didn't pave their road. And everybody in this room has heard me say this more times than we can count. If I could pave your road, I would have done it twice. That's the struggle that we have. Roads like yours that need paved. Yeah, you're in an urban township, but because of the low traffic counts, we struggle to get funding. We need roads like this to get done. There's roads in every one of our townships that unfortunately don't have a lot of cars. That doesn't mean they shouldn't get placed on a high priority. So these are a couple of things, like I had mentioned, as part of my goal in getting every road done, regardless of how many cars are on it. So I thank you for your
What's
comments.
happened is that because of the development's increase and more construction in that development, Steel Metals, we have a higher traffic rate. And I wish somebody would come and do a traffic count on that roadway, because in addition to the need for it, we have excessive speed going back and forth because they can duck and dive to connect over to
Yeah,
the
it's a
other
cutthroat.
ways.
Yep.
So, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Carol Geis. Carol?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I get your need for the sales tax, but here's the question I'm gonna ask you three. Do you promise that it's a temporary tax? Because every time we go with a temporary tax, it doesn't stay temporary. Somehow, it always stays forever, okay? We had this years ago when we did the piggyback tax where there was an ad, and I don't want to say you because I don't know if it was you three, but that's how we ended up with 7.25%. Okay? I just would like to see if we could just be honest and just trust that it would only be 5 years and it would go away. That's my number one. We've had temporary taxes for WRTA, we've had it for the jail, and they all become permanent. And I do appreciate the roads because I travel the roads every day. We have progressed in the last years. I've seen roads, we're enjoying the roads. But can we honestly just make it for 5 years? That's my comment.
Carol, let me ask you one question. You mentioned 7.25%. Do you know how much of that 7.25 goes to Mahoning County?
No.
Would you take a guess? What do you think of the 7.25?
Half.
That'd be nice. 1.25 comes to Mahoning County, the 7.25. 5.75 is taken by the state of Ohio. And 1/4% is WRTA. So, and actually the justice tax that runs the jail, the prosecutor, 911, and the coroner is 0.75%. And only 1/2 of 1 penny runs the entire Mahoning County. So that's, and we're frustrated like you are because, people look at our sales tax as a whole, 7.25, because that's what we're paying. And the state of Ohio imposes sales tax with no vote, no explanation, no ability for the residents to speak their mind like you and the rest of us can, and they imposed an additional 0.25%, was in 2013, I believe it was, but they take 5.75%. So I think that we can, all agree that, we're putting this on for a 5-year period to give us a shot in the arm to try and, or we would like to, that's what the intent of all these meetings are, is to decide whether we're going to put it on. But that'll give us a shot in the arm and, and bring us back to square one where we think we need to be. So, but thank you very much for your input.
Then we
We
need to
agree
start
with you.
fighting with the state then to
Yeah.
get the percentage
You know
down in the
what?
state.
We fight with them.
We'll do that if you
We
would like.
fight with them daily. Yeah, but we need your help.
Yeah, let me know how to do it. You got my numbers.
Fight with them yesterday.
Okay, I'm serious.
Yeah. We
'Cause that's
appreciate
ridiculous.
your input because you come to a lot of the meetings, so thank
Oh,
you.
I haven't done this for a long
Yeah.
time, since the last quarter tax.
Yeah.
Thank you very, very much. Okay, Mr. Slagle, Dave Slagle.
Morning, Commissioners. Morning, Pat. I just want to thank all of you for taking the time to consider this. I don't feel the same way as she does. I can see where my local taxes go. I am not afraid to vote for local taxes for a continuous period of time because I know what's happening. I've seen what's happened with the justice tax. I've seen what happened with the county tax, the 0.5%. And I've seen also what happened with the 1/4 for WRTA. Green Township. Now, maybe you don't all know this, but they never voted for no income tax. They always voted down, except for WRTA. And guess how long it took for somebody to use WRTA out in Green Township? Over 10 years. Before anybody called, that they had enough common sense or enough belief in their neighbors that if someday they're in trouble and they need a ride, it's going to be available for them. And that was the first one that they passed. And I'll guarantee you, this will be the second one that they pass, because they can see exactly what he put up there on the screen is going to happen. This is no wish we could. This is going to happen if it passes. We know it is. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And thank you for what you do. I know it's a hard job because I do it in the township. Have a great day.
Thank you so much, Dave. Esther Moss. Esther? Welcome.
And don't be talking about the Crimson Tide now, Esther.
I'll try not to. I'll try not to. Good morning to everyone. I'm glad to be here. First of all, Mr. Genetti, thank you for your hard work, and I feel your passion. I can't say right now I'm in the middle on how I feel about that. And I'm a person, I'm a minister, and so I'm gonna use my 3 minutes. I'm a person-
You'll get extra time.
Thank you. So I believe in the honesty of things. And so I'm that person that I'm the one that says what other people are thinking. Now, it may not be necessarily anyone in the room, but other people, the citizens, people that you live next door to, people that you work with. And so the second that someone hears tax, for the most part, it's a no-go because people think in terms of money. Okay, and that's the reality of it. It doesn't matter that your presentation was fantastic. I believe everything that you said, but when you're trying to pitch something, you have, as a minister, I try to make people, if I'm talking, whatever I'm preaching about, I have to put it to the point where people understand it so that they see it through my eyes. And so I'm not against it. I'm right in the middle. I believe the roads do need to be paid. That's a reality. My son coaches in Columbiana County, coaches basketball down there. And so we do a lot of traveling. So I'm one of the Youngstown people that I'm on the county roads a lot. And so I know it, but people can't separate the county from the city. And so the second that a lot of people heard about this, the first thing that went into their mouths, you may not think it matters, but it does. So I'm just saying this, I'm playing devil's advocate now. People say, well, I ride up Market Street. Market Street has all those potholes. What are they gonna do with the money? Now, we know what your job is versus the city, but some citizens don't know that. And so they can't separate that. All they see is people see what they see. Am I making any sense? People see what they see. They ride on what they ride on, so they can't do that separation. And so I think in order to get more people on board, somehow, some way, and maybe it can be done in this room, maybe it can be done with some of us that are here, there has to be a way for you, and I'm not placing blame on you, as well as everyone else, to get people in the city to see that this needs to be passed to help other areas, because people can't separate that. I mean, I'm getting ready to ride up Market Street again. And so I know the difference, but when I get to a certain point, I'm like, I'm hitting a pothole. My Suburban is hitting a pothole. And so people don't care. So we have to see it through your eyes and know what you mean. And so I think that's a great problem because people are seeing the money. People are seeing that lots of money is coming into the city of Youngstown. I've attended all the meetings that they've talked about the money that's coming from the COVID relief. And so people instantly think that that money can go towards the roads for Youngstown, but it can't, but they don't know that. And so more people need to be here. I think I'm probably the only person maybe representing the city of Youngstown. Everybody else is probably from some place else. And that's why there has to be some way for people to understand that there's a separation there and that this money just isn't going in your pocket, your pocket, your pocket. Because the instant people see sales tax, they're saying no. They think that the money from the gas tax is instantly supposed to go for roads. Many people have said, okay, they're paving Mahoning Avenue. Why did they stop? And they're not in Youngstown. Do you understand what? So it's different, but people don't see different. They see it collectively. And so I think that if there's some way that we can make people see the separation and see where it's going, and then also what she said, you know, that money is allocated to use for the roads and not for raises. So people instantly think it's going to go in your pockets. And so we have to be able to make a way for people to see that so that they understand it. Solomon said, get wisdom, get knowledge, but most importantly, get understanding. God bless you for the job that you do. I'm still Alabama, but God bless you for the job that you do.
Pastor, before you sit down,
Yes.
what suggestions would you have us do with respect to what you're telling us? For the people of Youngstown would understand, like you said.
I think perhaps it'll probably cost money, obviously, but I think that somehow in a letter form, mail it to, somehow type something and mail it to each of the residents and explain that what they think is not what is. Because you can think all you want. You know, I can think I'm a linebacker and I'm not. Okay, so if we get a letter and mail it to the citizens and let them know that this is the road, these are the roads that we're doing, and we're sorry that we can't go all the way down Mahoning Avenue, but that's not our job. And you're not, you know, you're not blaming Youngstown, but at least you're letting them know what is being done. And I think if people see something, because people are visual, no matter what you say, people are visual. When they have something in front of them, they can look at it and they read it, it stays here. It stays here because, believe it or not, a lot of people don't watch the news. Some people, because yeah, it does get depressing.
Yes, ma'am.
But if you mail people something and they see it, they can look at it, they can read it, then they know, then it'll stick in the head and they'll get a better understanding. So I think mailing
I'm
would
glad
be,
you brought that up because in discussions with the townships, we had talked about putting together a pamphlet, an informational pamphlet, because you hit the nail on the head. Everybody doesn't watch the news. Everybody doesn't listen to the radio. Not everybody comes to these meetings. And you also made a very good point. People don't know the difference. We get called about roads that belong to the state, the village, the city, the township, and people just think because it's in the county that it belongs to my department. So we go through a lot of effort of trying to explain and educate people. A lot of people think their property tax goes to the roads. That's probably the most common call we get. Why isn't my road paved? I pay all these property taxes. So you bring up some very valid points, and those are things that we've been working on at the fair. We have our own booth where we have a lot of information, but not everybody comes to the fair. So we try to do that, and we're going to try to hit everybody, whether they get the paper, whether they watch the news, whether they listen to the radio, or none of the above. We're going to try to reach every citizen in whatever way we have to educate them and give them the information to show them what we're trying to do.
okay, all right. And just, you know, also, I know that, you know, with, you have to say it, with the things that are going on in the city with bad behavior, someone may not want to do this, but somebody might even think about sometimes not necessarily mailing, maybe just going and putting it on people's doors, because anyone that sees something stuck on their door, they're gonna look at that before they actually may open their mail. Sometimes people get mail and they're like, whatever, I'll get to it later. But if they see it on their door, then they're gonna think it's something, and they're gonna open it and they're gonna read it, because we as individuals, we're visual. We have it right in front of us. We're gonna look at it. And if you need somebody to help you mail, fold, I'll come do it.
Thank you. One of the things too that I wanted to mention, trustee Orr brought
Thank you,
up,
Pastor.
just lost my train of thought.
It's all right.
Go ahead, Carol. I gotta regain my,
He's regaining his thoughts, all talk.
I got it back.
Right.
Nobody in this room,
Do you believe this?
I gotta talk while I have it or I'm gonna forget
Go
again.
ahead, go ahead.
These commissioners are not passing a tax. Trustees are not passing a tax. I'm not passing a tax. We are asking for it to be on the ballot for the residents to pass the tax. People oftentimes get upset when they hear we're gonna raise a tax. There's no reason to be upset. If you're for it, you vote yes. If you're not, you vote no. If it passes, I showed you what we're gonna do. If it doesn't, I am still obligated to do my job and I will. And these trustees have seen both the good and the bad, and the ugly of me. I put my heart into this, and like Bob had mentioned, when you care, your emotions come out. I'm very energetic, I'm very aggressive, I go after it, but sometimes we come up short because of money, and that's the unfortunate truth of what we do. It all revolves around money. So in the city of Youngstown, a lot of people don't know this. We have 25 bridges in the city of Youngstown that belong to the county. 4 of our largest bridges in the county are all in a row. Spring Commons, Mahoning Avenue, Market Street, and South Avenue. Market Street, as I mentioned, is the 9th largest bridge in the state of Ohio. That belongs to the county. If there's ever an issue with that bridge or South Avenue, we're gonna be looking for millions and millions of dollars. So we have to stay on top of these bridges. We do annual inspections. The larger bridges, we do biannual inspections. We have some bridges with underwater piers that we have to send divers down. These are all federal highway guidelines that we have to stay on top of and we have to manage. So these are things like you say, a lot of people don't know the difference. A lot of people don't know Market Street, once you get out of Youngstown, is a state route and belongs to ODOT. They think it's Boardman's or they think it's the counties. So there is, even on our county maps, we have color-coded roads to try to help decipher that. Not everybody looks at maps any longer with GPS and cell phones, but we try to do everything we can to show the differences and the similarities as best we can. Carol, I apologize for
No,
cutting you
that's
off,
all
but I
right.
had
We're
the
gonna-
thought in my head.
That's okay.
We're gonna
You
finish
got it.
the protocol with the meeting.
Yeah, we'll
and
finish
then
the
we'll-
meeting.
then
and
I'll
then
make a call.
Terry or Sarko?
I've seen what great good that taxes have done, starting with the WPA back in the 30s until now. I mean, I benefit from the WRTA. When I didn't have a car, I used the WRTA for 3 years and they extended their services. So I used it immensely. I traveled the entire Mahoning County through it. Then having a car, I'm a substitute teacher, so I'm all over Mahoning County. And I have traveled the best and the worst of the roads. And Springfield Township is the worst. Going to the high school on the back roads is horrible. But with this tax, fantastic, it'd be great. And not because I know you, Pat, or Matron, but you two have had a great success of being honest. In the past, we have had unethical office holders. And when you took over, you brought decency and honesty, and same with Matron. I'm not saying because, blowing smoke up your nose, because I've seen what has happened in Mahoning County. But let's pass it. If Mr. Janetti doesn't live up to his word, well, we can vote him out and we can vote the tax out. If he does live up to his word, we keep him voting him in and maybe vote another 5 more years and keep, more roads. But I've seen, like I said, since I'm a socialist Democrat, I'm a Roosevelt follower. So I've seen what good taxes can do for good people. So I'm for it.
Thanks, Terry. Appreciate your input. Okay. Anybody against the tax? Care to speak? Once? Yes. Against?
I'm not really for it, but I just took the.
Okay. Anyone else? No? Okay, well, before we adjourn, I know Carol had a comment.
I just wanted to say that Pat Janetti when we first discussed this, and the trustees and the organizations came to us and asked us to listen. We went to meetings prior to this even becoming part of public hearings. We listened to the trustees. My comment many, many months ago, and Pat could attest to this, is how will this benefit cities like Youngstown, Campbell, Struthers? How will we help the cities? Because these cities are a part of this voting block, and we all need to be a unified force so that we could create that relationship with Youngstown and Struthers and Campbell and Louisville and places like this that are going to be voting, whether they vote for or against on this, because we all drive the roads. You know, we're all over, all over. So I did ask Pat that question. He did come up with a plan that included the cities, and he brought it to the three commissioners. We thought it was a good plan for Youngstown and for Struthers and Campbell, and what we're allowed to do with the money, being that we can't cross border lines because of the law, and what we're allowed to do in Mahoning County. The bridges were the best, were probably, which Pat has, all the bridges. And if you look underneath some of the bridges, you will see that the structure of those bridges, when those pillars crack, the work and the money that goes into the repair. So having a plan to work on repairing those as needed, with looking at them constantly year by year to find out what's needed, will keep us from having to do major structural issues if something were to happen that's catastrophic. So having that plan that he showed us that he does have. He also said that in talking, we've been with the counties and the townships, and we know their position and what they're going to do with Pat, which is great collaborative effort across the board with everything. He's going to be probably working with cities as well to work with their engineers in a collaborative effort. We can't use this money for anything other than the bridges, but there are other ways that we can partner with Youngstown and the other town cities to help them. So
We
they
do have some roads that are jurisdictional boundaries, like a Meridian Road, for example.
Right.
Half is in Youngstown, half is in Austintown, but it's a county road. So the jurisdictional boundaries, we can work together and team up, and projects like that do bode well for us on grant applications. Whenever we partner with a community, we've done it with Springfield in a few instances, it gives both of us more points and gives us the ability to be more competitive in these grants. And again, that stretches our dollar. So if we can get even a portion of it funded, we're able to push that money further down the road and do more.
Well, I applaud Pat for that, because we have not really had those major partnerships with the city for a very long time. And you just showed that, I think, in the last project that Meridian Road had, that we did do things that were part of city property, but not looking at that, he continued through to make that a joint effort. So I want the city residents to understand that they are not out of this loop. They are a part of it. And we understand that here, and we will always keep them a part of that. And Pat is the best person to do it, because he listens, he understands, he knows the needs of the city, of Campbell, of Struthers. He also knows that the money that we are getting, because you might hear this out there, where you're getting 42 million or 82 million or 90 million, that money cannot be used for roads. Cannot be used for roads at all. I think that was the wrong approach on the federal government, but that's only my opinion. It's for infrastructure, doesn't have anything to do with roads. So this will help everybody. And it's a sales tax, and it's the fairest tax. If you don't want it, you just don't vote for it. So I just wanted to clear that up Youngstown and the surrounding cities and villages, so they know that they're still a part of this.
Dave?
Yeah, I think it was about 3 years ago, I hit a pothole, bent my rim and flattened the tire. It was, I want to say around $400 to get a rim and a tire. And so this will cost us a quarter if we spend $100. If you spend $10,000 in taxable income, it'll cost you $25. So I don't know how much we all spend, it's all different, but it's on a graduated scale that, you know, you spend more, you'll pay a little more. If I had $100,000 to spend, you know, what is it, $250? You know, so the problem that we always have is getting the message out, you know, like Esther said, you know, to try and, if I could sit down and talk to every person and explain, or let Pat explain, you know, people understand. But we don't have that ability. And the problem is we're mad at taxes as a whole, but we don't get an opportunity to vote on the ones that we're mad at. So we take it out on the ones that we can vote on. You know, I'd like to vote against the state of Ohio for taking 5.750 out of my pocket. But you know what? The state does what they want. The state legislature imposes, you don't vote. You know, and when the state runs out of money, you know what they do? They take more of ours. They took tangible personal property tax, CAT tax, local government fund, MCO funds. Do you know, in the last 10 years, the state has taken out of the county's budget probably close to $18 million a year to take back to balance their own budget and to take care of their own issues. And you know what they say? Local government. Push it down to local government to resolve their own problems. And people are mad at that because we're grasping for opportunities to help 235,000 people in Mahoning County, you know, through roads, through community development grants, through helping, assisting. You know, I think that we as a group of elected officials in Mahoning County have done a good job at reducing our budget and staying within our means and creating a carryover. And that's how we've been able to help Pat in certain areas. But that's here today, gone tomorrow. Every year it changes, you know, and every year we find ourselves filling a new hole that the state of Ohio has created for us. There's no stable financial situation that you're able to count on going forward because something new will be taken from you. Do you realize that the state of Ohio, when they eliminated our managed care MCO funds, a tax on managed care organizations, part of a sales tax, that took away $9.3 million in one swoop. 9.3 was the last year we would have received it. But what the state did, because they couldn't afford to lose their portion of it, they created it as a user fee that pays it to the state and not to the counties in Ohio. So the state made themselves whole. In fact, they used to collect $360 million from that managed care organization sales tax. Now they collect $600 million as a fee in the state of Ohio. So they always keep their pot full, but they do it on the backs of local government. And when we try to resolve those issues, that's the only opportunity that we all have to vote no. And we vote no out of frustration. And predominantly that frustration is not directed at the local taxes. It's just our only opportunity. No, and so, but if you could sit down and show people those Christmas colors on the map, I mean, to me, that's amazing. You know, everywhere I go, they say, oh, I hate going into Mahoning County because the roads are terrible. You know, too many potholes, too many this. Webb Road, prime example. I mean, some of the roads, like Pat said, we've looked back and said, this road hasn't been paved in 37 years. 37 years, West Webb Road.
I've been there for 41. so I know.
And 37 years. And you know why? It's so expensive. Doesn't meet any of the OPWC requirements because the traffic counts like 350 cars. And it needs to be, 35,000 in order to create enough to generate the OPWC matching funds. And at the end of the day, we have to take care of ourselves. And to be able to pave all the roads and to do the things that we need to do as a community, it takes us all working together. And for 5 years, if I spend, another $2.50 on $1,000 or $25 on $10,000, I know it's coming back to Mahoning County. So it's really incumbent on us to help ourselves. Because you know what, at the end of the day, the state's only gonna take, they're not gonna give. All they do is take. And so, that's just, something that I feel that, it's all of us working together to help ourselves.
Commissioner, if I may, too, expanding 8.5 years that I've been at the county engineer's office, we are 10 fewer employees than when I started. We are 100 fewer than when my predecessor started. So in 2 decades, we are down 110 employees.
Wow.
We have the same amount of roads, same amount of bridges, same amount of equipment, but fewer people to do the work. So we are doing everything we can to do more with less, as Bob also said. And it's becoming increasingly difficult. We're trying to work smarter, not harder, as the saying goes, but it's hard to do with limited people, and it is rugged work at times to where the wear and tear, not only on the equipment, but on the employee, slows things down.
Bob? I just want to say, Commissioner Distler brought up a valid points about the home state is taken away. The townships have been affected the same way. 5 different taxes were either reduced or eliminated over the last. So what I wanted to say was 2 things that did get brought out today that I think are important. That Pat is going to have the ability to do massive bidding, which will bring pricing down by working with the townships and everywhere. They'll be able to get better pricing on all these products, and it'll eliminate a lot of mobilization costs at different times. So it's going to be a great thing in that way. And the other thing that I was brought out was the fact that, as a small township with limited traffic counts, like as you mentioned, we apply for an OPWC grant. OPWC grant funds come to this area for the Trumbull County, Mahoning County area. There's a specific dollar amount that comes here. That dollar amount, then if I grab a little piece of that pie and the next township grabs a little piece, in order for us to grab it, we have to fill out a grant formula that shows us putting in 69% and OPWC puts in 31%. So it's pretty intrusive for us to do any work with them. And so, but now we'll have the funding to take care of our roads. I can almost say, I personally would not be applying for OPWC funds. That'll leave those funds in that several $1 million range for Pat now that he can put towards Struthers, towards Camel, wherever he needs to go, because I'm not going to be competing with him for those same funds. Because now I have the money to do mine. I don't have the traffic counts to get the good grant like Struthers would have or Camel would have because they got more traffic. So now I'm not competing with our own engineer for the same fund. So I think that's something that also.
And the other point to that, Bob, is this money would enable us to do what I like to call worst first approach, where we do the worst roads first, and it takes away all of the scoring criteria, the traffic counts, things like that, that will enable us to get the roads that need done regardless of how many cars are on it. That's the intent behind doing the pavement condition rating study when I came into office, to understand what we had, what I had inherited. And it also gave me kind of a benchmark to try to accomplish. These roads are Ds and Fs, they need to be As. And that's what we're working towards.
Thank you. Anybody else? Jody.
Hi, First of all, I just want to say as elected official, we're obligated by the people that elected us to find the best opportunities to serve our community. This definitely is an opportunity to do that. In the event that the county commissioners would allow us to have this put on the ballot for the voters to vote for, the next hurdle that we would have to take in this would be educating the public, because this room should be filled with people. It's not. The TV, not everybody watches the TV, not everybody watches the news, not everybody reads the paper. We need to get the information out to educate the public. As part of the discussion when we were going with this plan with Mr. Janetti, educating the public was one of the first criteria that one of the first things that we were gonna have to jump on as soon as the commissioners would make their choice about to allow this on the ballot. So that is definitely in the works. We're just waiting for the go-ahead, because once we know for sure that it's gonna be on the ballot, then the education process starts, and we're working together on that as well. Again, thank you for your consideration. Thank you for your time. Like I said, as a township trustee, we truly believe that this provides an opportunity that we would not have otherwise. Thank you.
I think one way to get it out to your people in your areas, regardless where it's at, is you're right, not a lot of people do anything anymore with TV. You know, it's all this basically. And not everybody does this all the time either, the phones and the internet. You have to have like town hall meetings in different districts in your area to see how your people are thinking.
But see, that's part of the problem, Carol, because this is the attendance that we get at our meetings, because people assume what they think they know, and they don't have the education to know what it really is, assuming, like you said. One question I do have, if I may backtrack a little bit, Pat, when you're saying that or Carol, when you were saying about lines for legal, if Pat were to have a massive paving project like on Meridian Road, like he's saying, and the city would be able to partner on the same project with their own funds, with the same contractor to be able to expand that onto their jurisdiction?
We have done that. What she was saying is we can't go in and just pave a city street on its own. We can do joint projects that split jurisdictional boundaries, but as far as us going into the city, there's limits on what we can
Okay, so
do.
you can partner with the contractor to split the project based on jurisdictional lines, but you can use the contractor, the bulk buying power. So everybody really truly would benefit, because I know the township trustees would benefit with the county as far as shirt dealing or partnering with them.
Yeah, and that's the goal, is to put everything together as best we can and do one major paving program or infrastructure program to take advantage of the bulk buy, the mobilization savings to get a better bang for a buck.
Yeah.
All right, with that being said, I want to thank everybody, and just to sum it up, the beauty of this whole thing is it's up to the public. The voters will have a say, yay or nay, and we put it to the public for their decision. So thank all of you for your time, and this officially ends our public hearing. Thank you all for your input.
Thank you.
You're a good man, Charlie Brown.
Better.
All right.